Afternoon, David.
Afternoon, David. How you doing?
No bad, that was better. I was watching the cloak rather than you couldn't.
I was wishing your head couldn't away inside. You'd
That was
been
me watching the cloak, David. That was me watching the cloak. Right, we'll have a wee look and see who's in, shall we? We've got Mark Telfer, Lorna Shields, Hashbury Stumbles, John Baxter, Stephen Nichol, Mark Telfer, Wake Up and Smell the Rosemaries, Neil McLean, Laurie Hay. Happy birthday, Gordon. Didn't think I missed it, did you? Spanner McTavish.
about to go.
Yeah. Robert Bruce, Robert Neal, Barbara Lansbury. Good afternoon, Barbara. Ice Ninja, Rosie McGregor, Last Braveheart, Scott Hayes, Peter M, Chris Fisher, Hoots Man, Margaret Hitsons, Kevin, who was
We've got someone called Maria MB that says, "Afternoon, folks.
aye,
Great seeing guys live, usually working." So
aye.
that's good. That's you having
Well,
a wee day off today? Are you feet up? That's good.
first in the door of the day was a legend of Scottish independence broadcasting,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Kevin, or
yeah.
Kevin Whitney. Afternoon, Kevin. Right, I'll scroll back down to the bottom again. Right, David, hi, Karen. How are you? Hey, hi, Gingers. Melanie. Right, I think we've covered most of these. There'll be more climbing in as we
Cassie
go.
Bartley. Is that Cassie Bartley? Hi, Two Davies. It's no, it's the name as it struck me. So, welcome, Cassie Bartley. If you've been on before, uh, Indie Duck Melanie.
Aye, that's our Swedish duck correspondent.
Right, okay, whack. There we go.
As to Kazi, well, Karen, me, Lynn, Sarah go back a long time. And it's Kazi that sent us a couple of t-shirts we've got. I've still got one here to bring out to you.
I don't want to know what your past. That's it.
That's not the past. It's all for the future. We still on with these marches, Steve. Although I have to say, I missed Karen and I missed Lynn at the last one. But I missed a lot of people at the last one because they leave right away to go back to work.
It's like I'd like to look back in David's life because I would see somebody within the armed forces in Germany, right? And I wonder what he was like at that time.
Well, that's the
'Cause
first time I
yeah,
assumed we didn't know it. You sold me a fucking J.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, numbers are quite really, really well. So we should get on with it, shouldn't we? Now, folks, we'll shoot things up a wee bit today. There have been monumental things going on in the Middle East which have been absolutely missing from our newscasters, whether it be printed or whether it be um, a broadcast media.
Yeah.
And
The important thing is not to bring up those things that are being missed out, right? Is the fact that they are missed out.
oh, it's
And the
deliberate.
fact that it is propaganda, when you look at it, it's propaganda by omission,
Yes.
right? And whether it be uh, Section D order, a D order
Aye.
from MI5 or whatever, right?
It's the government, of
Um,
course.
But we've now got a situation whereby major stories internationally have been bypassed by our media services.
You can't get
And
it working.
you think to yourself, if the people of the United Kingdom don't have knowledge of this, if anything happens, how are they going to cover that up?
Well, let's give them the knowledge then, shall we?
Yeah,
As we know, last Friday, the Arab League were meeting in Doha
yeah.
to come about a strategy to tackle Israel and the threat from Israel.
And you may remember at the time that I was having a bit of a laugh and a joke about them, saying the pretty boys in their white outfits and their Ferraris, that they won't want to go to war. So, but in actual fact, let David carry on with this, and you'll see where the real power of it comes from.
Right, well, anyway, after that meeting, it was declared that they were going to go to war with Israel on multiple fronts.
Yes.
With the only one no being military at this point in time.
Yeah.
Now, what people have to understand is the Gulf states have got a huge amount of soft power in the world. The 7 of them, because of their oil and gas productions and their billions of pounds in sovereign wealth funds. Afternoon, Daily Blase, Darren, my drinking partner in Edinburgh. Anyway, so the Gulf states have been operating on the premise that America was going to ensure their safety for Israel. But the strike on Doha shows that America no longer has a grip of their attack dog in the Middle East.
Well, in actual fact, looking at that deeply, a bit deeper, right? The American bases there, it's like, if anybody says to me that airplanes flew, warplanes flew in that area to do an attack in that area, and that the Americans had no knowledge of it, that's frankly nonsense. Because in actual fact, the Americans, if it had been any other country that was going to do an attack in that country in Qatar, the Americans would have downed the planes, no problem whatsoever.
Well, right? Since the 1980s, David, when the Arab states and the Gulf states were going to set up the Peninsula Shield Force, sort of Middle Eastern version of NATO, and they came together in a military alliance. And believe it or not, that military alliance.
That name so people would get used to it, because I wasn't used to it.
The Peninsula Defence Force.
Peninsula.
Yes.
Force, right? Okay. So in other words, Arab NATO.
Arab NATO. They were setting up in the 1980s, and Reagan talked about it, saying that America would provide the protection from Israel. But that's no longer the case, as we've seen with the strike on Doha. So, if at the end of that meeting on Friday in Doha at the Arab League, it was decided there would be economic sanctions and, if necessary, military force brought to bear on Israel. But they're no as advanced when it comes to military equipment as Israel, because America gives Israel an edge.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this, because the people on these islands and the people of the US weren't made aware of this, they'll not be aware of the fact that US and UK diplomats have been running about like heedless fucking chickens in the Middle East ever since. Yeah. Because on his visit to the Gulf states promised to invest $3 trillion over the next decade in the US, and that's likely to disappear now.
Yeah.
And they've also told the Americans that if you are not going to stand up to this pact, then we're going to move away from it. And as we seen yesterday, 3 of these Arab states did move further away.
Well, the most important one being Saudi Arabia.
And as you say, they're getting cozy with Iran. They seem to have put their differences to one side. But yesterday, Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Iran became full members of the BRICS.
Yeah.
Decided they're going to trade their oil and gas in the petro yuan.
That's right.
Which is going to rattle America and Trump's cage big style.
Well, the petrodollar is not dead, but it's on its back. Definitely.
The move to green energy and the Chinese launching the petro yuan, that's put America in a bad position. And to have the Gulf states all move towards the BRICS and take the oil and gas with them and start to trade it in a different currency, that's going to create ruptures right across the West.
But what about the situation where we saw back in the 70s, where the Arab countries, producing nations, just literally switched taps off?
Well, that's a fear this time. That is a fear this time. So,
I mean, I remember clearly that happening, the Suez crisis and all the rest of it, right? And it was a bad time to live, really, really was. You had people of Scotland stealing from each other. We're talking about personal thefts. We're talking if you had a car to get to work, you'd go out in the morning and find your tank empty. Because at that time we didn't have lock-in petrol cars. Most part didn't have lock-in petrol cars. And what would happen is people would go along and siphon your tank.
Well, I wasn't driving back then, but I remember it because my grandfather had taxis,
Yeah.
had a taxi and things like
I had a Cortina Mark III at the time, and it gets siphoned.
that.
You know,
For all the gallon and a half year that went missing in David, aye.
no, I used to drive down to Greenock.
Aye.
The time I was post office telephone engineer, right? So you
Right,
know,
back on track. So they switch the oil off or in the shit. That's enough to say. We don't need to reminisce about it.
no. Well, what we're trying to say to you guys is right at the moment, the only proper news service is social media.
It is
And
because
on social media, there's a load of shite, load of nonsense. But every now and then, you hit like Double Down News or whatever, right? And these are decent news services,
yeah,
right?
very good ones.
And the main news services, Sky, ITV, BBC, STV, part of the ITV, right? And even Channel 4, you look at them and you go, well, what are you doing, guys?
Naughty step, Gillian.
And this sounds awfully like it's a D notice.
Aye,
So,
this
so cannot broadcast or publish anything to do with this particular subject at all.
well, you can get it in the international news feeds, as you know, David. That's where I got it for.
But how many normal blods in Scotland would go on to international news feeds?
Well, when
to
it,
get
comes,
news?
when it comes to the Israel Gaza thing, there's quite a lot.
Well, all right. That one particular thing. So therefore, it's a prism that people are looking through for that particular piece of information.
Aye.
However, generally, when we're talking about potentially war, real war that's going to devastate people's lives, that isn't happening. We're not being warned. We're not being forewarned.
Well, let's hope it doesn't go to a full war. Israel's trying to drag us all into a war in the Middle East.
Yeah.
This particular declaration for the Arab states, the 7 of them, that has got it's got America's cage rattled big style.
Yeah. The one I did see, I did pick up on, was the fact that Israel are also threatening Turkey. And Turkey have up their Iron Dome, their version of the Iron Dome, right? Turkey have also got submarines and all the rest of it, right? They've got a huge armed forces, right? And that in itself is a crazy situation, because if you imagine Israel are not part of NATO, however, they've got backing from America, well and truly. America is right in their corner, right? And the America are a NATO member. Turkey are a NATO member. Israel attacks Turkey, and what happens there?
The NATO pact breaks down.
That's right.
But there's nothing left of it anyway. I mean,
Right.
Trump thinks that Europe is beefing up its defence spend because he's demanding it. Truth is, the European states are bumping up their defence spend because they don't see America as a reliable ally anymore, or a security guarantor, as the 7 Arab states are now finding out.
Yeah.
Now, if they do put this military alliance into effect, the Peninsula Defence Force, it will basically set up a central command committee run like NATO, which will coordinate the defence of the 7 states. But the interesting thing about this is Iran and Saudi Arabia are getting quite close together, and they two are a huge power. If they ever decide to put their differences completely aside and turn their attention to the world stage will tremble.
Yes. I mean, if you look at the amount of money that Saudi Arabia have thrown into arms sales, you know, we're always complaining of what a place to actually provide arms to, right? And they are now sitting there with F-35s, all the rest of it, all this sort of stuff that you can imagine, right? And a lot of money has been passed.
A lot of scientists working out how to turn the bloody off switch off then, isn't they? Because apparently America has built in a kill switch to all these bloody devices have sold.
Fair enough. Yes, the F-35s that might go. Yeah. I would imagine though that the Saudi Arabia would be very, very quick to say to Iran, who are now a partner, have you any spare missiles we can borrow?
Tina, but we're moving on to other subjects. We're just starting in the Middle East.
Yeah.
As opposed to starting in Scotland and moving out the way.
Yeah.
It's just because this is quite important because it's got the diplomats and the American diplomatic service and the UK diplomatic service and the European diplomatic service running about like a headless chickens because the sovereign wealth funds of the 7 Arab states are hoarding a lot of fucking places up.
That's right.
Between Norway and the Arab states, there's a fair chunk of the world's money sitting between the 8 of them. So, if they get together, if they don't see America as a viable security measure anymore, as I say, they already have a situation where if they turn on Israel as a collective, that's 10,000 American lives that will be put at risk right away.
Yes.
That's their bases throughout the Middle East.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a quarter of the Earth's population living in the Arab states, so Israel's got no fucking chance.
Yeah.
But moving on for that, we see the Freedom Flotilla has set off in its final leg. And in order to try and prevent anything happening to the Freedom Flotilla, 16 nation states have backed it and warned Israel, if you come anywhere near this flotilla, you'll have us to deal with. There will be consequences. So we'll stick it up and we'll name them, David.
Yeah, go on.
This might be a game changer for this Freedom Flotilla. Where are we? Instagram, there. Okay, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, folks, but I'll read it to you. 16 nations demand safety for Freedom Flotilla. And the 16 nations are, if we can find it, the governments of the 16 nations, including Bangladesh, Brazil, Colombia, Indonesia, Ireland, Libya, Malaysia, Maldives, Mexico, Pakistan, Qatar, Oman, Slovenia, South Africa, Spain, and Turkey have issued a joint statement calling for the protection of the flotilla and respect for international law. Will that make a difference, David, or do you think the Israelis are still trying to take this flotilla out?
Well, an interesting one would be Pakistan, because Pakistan have already threatened Israel. Effectively they've said, you try anything, we've got nukes here, and we easily lob a few your direction. You know what I mean? So it's bad. That's a bad situation. I mean, the Israelis are, for want of a better word, nutters.
The bloodlust taking them, that's for sure.
And if Israel think they are losing, they could press the nuclear button quite easily.
As I say, that's another problem for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the world turns on Israel, there's just a chance to just blast everything to fuck.
Yeah.
And the hope that their God's going to protect them, even though their God is looking down on them and frowning on them at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
For various reasons, of course. For a start, it didn't give them the order to go back to fucking anywhere.
I've no argument with the Jewish people. However, I have a real argument with any Zionists.
Aye. Right, let's move on and get back to business here in Scotland for a wee bit, shall we? As we spoke about this morning, not guilty verdict, gone. But really, it was obsolete anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We don't need to carry on with that. We'll move on to First Minister's questions.
Remember, the only charge that we had in the Alex Salmond thing was it was not proven, right? And at the end of the day, it's like it left a smell over the thing, whether you liked it or not, whether you liked Alex Salmond, whether you were pro Alex Salmond, right? Which I'm not, but still in all, it left a smell over it.
Well, as you know, David, the reason for the not guilty verdict was so they could drag people back into court if new evidence came to light. Since they did away with the double jeopardy law, then they can drag people back in anyway if new evidence comes to light. Yeah. So it's irrelevant now. Okay, let's move on to First Minister's questions. And first up this morning was Russell Finlay, and he went on the alleged black hole predicted by the Scottish Fiscal Commission in the Scottish devolved benefit system. Now, what they're saying is that the cost of the disability living allowance here in Scotland, or whatever it's called, will rise to 770 million by the end of the decade. Now, what they're trying to tell us is that's not sustainable, David. But the problem the Fiscal Commission's got is they're a bit like polling companies. They base their information on current or past trends instead of looking at the situation and trying to project forward. Now, the reason why John Swinney and the SNP and the Scottish Government are not worried about this is because the Scottish economy is growing at a rapid rate of knots.
And how many times have the Scottish Fiscal Commission got things right?
Not many.
Good. Yeah.
Absolutely never. Adult disability allowance, sorry. But as I say, yep, it will go up. And we've got Russell Finlay talking about the...
In actual fact, what you've got to look at is you've got to go, why are the newspapers punting this information out? Is it because they think they can get this by the people of Scotland all the time, making the people of Scotland think that the Scottish Fiscal Commission is something special when it is in actual fact not?
It's a bit like the OBR and the ONS. They're not getting fuck all right, or the IFS. They're not getting nothing right.
OBR was formed by George, what's his face, the history major, you know. So,
anyway, Russell Finlay goes in the 1.2 billion black hole, he says, which will exist in the future. As I say, because the Fiscal Commission says it will be there in our benefit system in the future. And all I've got to say is they're not taking into consideration the projection for growth, the population increase that we've had, the amount of tax that's now being paid in Scotland, which compensates for it and allows us to have all these extra services. The Fiscal Commission, as far as I can see, is just there to fucking bang on about nothing.
Well, to be honest with you, David, putting this in a rather horrible way, if our track record was as bad as the Scottish Fiscal Commission, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have any of these people viewing us.
That's true, and we have a regular audience between 140 and...
It's like the reason why we do it is because we do look ahead and we do look at things closely. They don't seem to.
Anyway, next up was Sarwar, and he went on buses and ferries.
Yes.
Now, he was claiming that the Scottish Government should break the law and bypass procurement laws and just hone contracts to Ferguson Marine. And he also wants the Scottish Government to buy buses. The Scottish Government doesn't fucking run a bus service.
He's been listening to me again. That's what it is. Because I was saying fuck them and give the work to Ferguson Marine. I didn't mention the buses because but I did mention Ferguson Marine. So.
I know that, David, but there's procurement laws that will be followed.
I know.
Right, anyway, so Sarwar wants them to break the law and buy buses. Break the law is not going to happen. Buy buses, they don't run a bus service. Yeah. Why would they want to buy buses? Yeah. But give Sarwar his due. He did agree that the Scottish Government did the right thing by putting in place a furlough scheme to see Alexander Dennis through this barren patch until the new orders come through.
Right, hang on. It's the wording of this that I've got difficulty with, right? It's as if the Scottish Government went in and made this happen, right? They did not make this happen. What happened was that the company itself would have had a suggestion, like why don't you put in place a furlough scheme? If you believe that the order's going to come through in 8 weeks or so many weeks or whatever, right? Go to the bank, get a bridging loan to cover you for that period of time, so you can actually have people sat at home waiting for you to go, right, and you come and start work, right?
I'm afraid that's not how it's been done, though. Alexander Dennis said they couldn't afford the bridging loan, so the Scottish Government's putting up 4 million. But it will only come into effect. It will only come into effect and be used in the event that Alexander Dennis...
I think the leverage that's being used isn't the Scottish Government have not, in fact, handed over 4 million. They haven't handed over 4 million to anybody. What they have done is they've said, we have money mounting to 4 million. We will play guarantor for this particular company. And at the end of the day, Alexander will end up paying for that bridging loan themselves.
That's not the deal.
Well, at the end of the day, it's like I don't care what's been broadcast, but if you look at it in terms of business, I can point out to other businesses.
That's how business is normally done. The Scottish governments went above and beyond because Alexander Dennis was going to pull out.
So what you're saying is the Scottish government have put money in to a business.
Not a penny yet. It's dependent on the orders coming in.
Correct.
So these people will end up on for more, they might end up on the brew.
I think they'll find there's a ways to go in this.
But what you find is the hypocrisy of Sarwar. At least the Scottish government's trying to save 400 jobs. Sarwar promised to save 400.
Grangemouth. My God, every time you go, Grangemouth.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anna Sarwar's demanding an industrial strategy. Is he not paying attention? Scotland's got the highest growth economy in the UK. Edinburgh is the highest GDP in the UK. Scotland is the highest.
David, the moment we start, you and I, when we start broadcasting the fact that 4 million was handed over, right? I can point to many Scottish firms that are in trouble.
David, we'll move it.
And they haven't been given anything by the Scottish
government. They haven't been given anything. It's just they're dependent. If they've got the orders coming in, the Scottish government will bridge that gap and pay 80% of the wages.
Right.
Okay.
How many companies folded because they were 8 or 10 weeks away from new work coming through and they couldn't make that?
Now, Sarwar's demanding an industrial strategy for Scotland. Scotland's got the highest it's got the fastest growing economy in the UK.
They're doing bloody well, but I'm trying to say in this particular instance, we're being told that the Scottish government have handed over 4 million.
We haven't been told that at all, David.
No, effectively, you were saying that.
No, what I say is there's 4 million there for furlough scheme, provided they've got the orders.
Absolutely. Look, pile of 4 million here, Mr. Bank. Pile 4 million there.
That's what they're doing. They're going to pay it out the Scottish public purse.
Right. What are the Scottish government going to get out?
Alexander Dennis to Sarwar demanding an industrial strategy.
Is Scotland going to get any shares in the Alexander company?
I said we've moved on for that, David.
All right.
The answer is I don't know.
Right.
Now, Sarwar's demanding an industrial strategy for Scotland. Scotland already has an industrial strategy. It has the best food and drink sector. It has a great industrial base. It has a fast-growing banking sector. It has the highest growth area of the UK. Edinburgh's now got the highest GDP. Scotland's got the highest average wage. And we don't need an industrial strategy, thanks very much. We're already there. We've got it.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's just a muppet. Now, let's move on. Alex Cole-Hamilton went on. The Scottish government not listening to the islands on the ferry scheme. That's a bit of fucking talking, but they've got road equivalent tariffs on the ferries.
Yes.
Meaning it doesn't cost any more what it would cost you to drive across land to get there.
Yeah.
I don't understand where this muppet's coming from.
Yeah, again, what he's doing is he's just trying to make things awkward by bringing up idiotic things like that. Simple as that. Cole-Hamilton's always been the same, and you've seen that every time he opens idiocy that comes out. Right?
Rennie was the same. I used to just say, I haven't got a fucking Scooby what Rennie was saying. You know, that was me every day. I have no Scooby what Rennie was saying. Every Thursday. Right, the Greens attacked Swinney on going to the state banquet with Trump. Because he was only a devolved leader who went.
But yet again, as our First Minister, I would expect him to be at that state do. Simple as that.
Well, actually, he was there because he was making progress on behalf of the whiskey industry, he tells the Greens.
It's whatever he can get out of that, because don't forget, it isn't just Trump that's there. It's other people that he could talk to.
Anyway, apart from Trump's left checkers and his offski.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goodbye to bad rubbish.
Yes.
Right, now let's move on. Douglas Ross has accused Jamie Hepburn of assaulting him in the Scottish Parliament. And he has reported the SNP minister to Police Scotland.
Can I tell you, Guinness, assault, when the police accuse you of assaulting somebody, it can be as simple as putting your hand on their shoulder, holding them back, or using your finger pointing to them, whatever, right? Touching them, right? As long as you touch them at some point, that is common law assault. Simple as that,
Yep.
right?
And
that's what Douglas Ross is accusing Jamie Hepburn.
Jamie Hepburn said he put his horn in Ross's shoulders and had a few choice words with him, which were maybe a wee bit rough. But it would appear that I'm afraid they're going to have to take the CCTV footage and decide from the mannerism of how he put his hand on Ross's shoulder whether it was an assault or not. All right, but that's a fucking comedy thing. That's just Douglas Ross trying to keep himself in the headlines because he's irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. And of course, he's trying to smear the SNP. They're all trying to smear the SNP. There's an election coming, and the SNP are clearly going to win it.
Yeah.
A country mile. And by the way, folks, when it comes to the SNP 1 and 2 things, Northeast and the borders and Dumfries and Galloway, because that could be enough to give us a majority of 69.
That's right. Yeah.
So the rest of the country, split your vote if you want. And the Northeast and the borders and in Dumfries and Galloway, SNP 1 and 2. Because we need to win a regional seat in those places to get us for 60, 60, 69 and an outright majority.
Yeah.
Okay, but Douglas Ross, of course, he's just been a clown, isn't he? Right.
Yeah, he's just a wee man. So was that.
SNP MP Dave Duggan complains that the spend on military was 3 times higher in the south of England than in Scotland. Military spending in Scotland per capita between 2020 and 2025, £390 per capita. Compared with £1,120 per capita in the southwest of England and £810 per capita in the southeast of England.
My initial feeling of it was, as Dave Duggan said, was that's ridiculous. One third Scotland's getting in terms of spending, in terms of looking at other parts of England, right? That's ridiculous. But as David pointed out, really, the places that need the amount of spending on defence is the southwest and southeast, because they're next to Europe.
Closest points to Europe.
That's where the threat would come from.
Yeah, so that's where any threat would come from. Now, if you look at Scotland's east-facing coastline, there are very few places where you can come ashore.
Yeah, plus the fact, if we lobbed a nuclear bomb at them, it's like that would be a bit self-defeating. But anyway, there you go.
Well, if you look at the west coast of Scotland, where we have no enemies from that direction, there's only Faslane and Coalport. The rest of the defence here in Scotland is up the east coast, facing Europe, where the threat's likely to come from.
Yeah.
So the reason why the spending is so high is because if I'm launching an attack for Europe into the UK, I'm going to cross the English Channel. It's the shortest route.
Yeah.
And if I want to defend that English Channel, then I'm going to build my naval bases along the southeast. So it's quickly around the corner and into the Channel.
Southwest.
So it's quickly around the corner and into the Channel.
Yeah.
So actually, David, he hasn't got a military background, so I'm not going to be too hard on him. But he should have done his fucking homework on military strategies, on how to defend these islands before he come away with this rubbish.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes the SNP can make themselves look foolish.
Yeah, well, what he was doing was he was saying there should be equal amounts spent per capita right the way throughout the UK, something like that, right? But in actual fact, you're going to get places where they're going to spend a lot more in defence.
Right up the east coast of the UK, actually.
Yeah.
As they like to call it. Less so in Scotland because there's less places where you can come ashore. It's no, I mean, a lot of our coastline is just inhospitable.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot more places where you could land in the southeast and along the south coast of England.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have such big cliffs and all that. There's places with huge beachfront areas.
Yeah.
Where in the east of Scotland, you've got small coves with beaches in them. We talk about places like St Andrews and that. There's no very big places to land anything. You know? So anywhere where there is somewhere to land on the east coast of Scotland, generally it's looked down into and it's very easy to defend, and you can quickly build defences there. Nice one, Daily Blasey. When he had when Douglas Ross fell on his arse running the line of Celtic Park, did he threaten to get the grass at Celtic Park arrested that time when it viciously him up when he was running the line?
That actual fact, from what were you hearing, it was to do with seagulls.
Oh, yeah. The fight was to do with seagulls because Douglas Ross had wasted time in the Scottish Parliament on pest control when that's a local issue for local councils. And it had really annoyed Jamie Hepburn because it was his portfolio that was being questioned at the time.
Well, what I heard through the grapevine was that Douglas Ross got to sell a bag of chips, the chippy, and he was heading back home, and a seagull came and snatched them off him. So there you go.
He stays up there in Ross. Stays up there in Rory. Right, anyway, Dave Duggan, he should have done his homework before making this complaint.
Yeah.
Because it was a stupid argument he was making.
Yeah.
It really was. The areas on the east coast of Scotland that need to be defended have defence forces there. So if we look up in Moray, and if we look in Edinburgh and the surrounding areas, that's where the military is, because that's where where the access points would be on the east coast here in Scotland. So that's the reason for the spending. So Dave, he's rang on this one. I'm sorry to say it, but he is, because I think he's brilliant. But he's rang on this one. If I was the government of these islands, I would be looking at where was more vulnerable, and that's where I would put the bulk of the money.
Well, there's vulnerable and there's vulnerable.
Well, let's put it this way: the whole of the island's vulnerable because it's missiles that's coming this time. It's no people.
That's right.
Anyway, let's move on, shall we? Trump goes to the UK on state visit. What do you make it? He's off the day. Flew in yesterday, away today.
I would have been on the airport going, "Don't come back." Yeah.
It was interesting how they was kept out the public eye for me. There was protests in London, protests in other places, protests in London, in Windsor. In fact, as I was saying this morning, led by donkeys.
Yeah, led by donkeys thing was absolutely amazing. Right? You're talking about, if any of you have ever been to Windsor, I did one of these industry things at Windsor, and we actually saw Windsor Castle, and you see the one great big turret.
Aye, that's where they broadcast.
What they did was they actually projected the entire story.
That's right.
That.
They ended up getting arrested for it.
Is it against the law?
No, as far as I'm concerned.
As far as I'm concerned, it's not against the law, and it does not. The anti-protest laws that they now have in place, I don't think it breaches that either.
No, it doesn't. And that's 40 now. 40 of such displays they've put on, and this is the first one they've been arrested for.
Yeah.
So it would appear that the image of Trump and Epstein together is now illegal in the UK.
It's just a bit too much, yes. In other words, we get you put a picture of two Americans up anywhere, that's it, you're going to jail.
More or less. Right, Bank of England hold interest rates at 4%, but Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey warns inflation pressures are still very real as turmoil in the world is still there and getting worse.
Let's see if I get this right, okay? Previously, we had a situation whereby we looked at the inflation, we looked at how the growth figures were and all the rest of it, right? And we thought, they've got to increase the base rate, right?
Aye.
They didn't. They actually decreased it, right?
Aye, but
this time we're in basically the same position as we were.
what's that?
Yeah, that's right. It's 10% of the inflation figure, right? And
Inflation target, David. Inflation target.
they've held it. Yeah,
And
10% of the inflation target. That's right. And they've basically held the
yes,
I
they're
mean,
going against all normal monetary policy. You're absolutely correct. Now, one of the great things about the inflation figure here in the UK is it lets us see the Brexit effect.
yeah,
And how does it let us see the Brexit effect?
it's now double what it should be.
Well, not just double what it should be according to the Bank of England. We see the Brexit effect because we can see what the inflation rate is in Europe as a bloc,
Yeah,
and we are 1.8% higher.
almost double.
And that is the Brexit effect. That's the increased cost of importing of goods and foods
Yeah,
and drink.
yeah,
And so we can actually see the Brexit effect in the inflation figures, which is quite good.
yeah.
Because it means we can see the absolute damage that's been done, not just to our productivity, which we'll get to in a minute, but the damage that's done to households just by increased costs for electricity, foods.
You look at it and you think to yourself, there is a government, forget what it is, but there's a government that's actually put sanctions against itself. Someone's that. They've stopped dealing with the nearest neighbours, all the rest of it. And effectively, that is Brexit over the back. And we are not going to get anywhere until we become independent.
Well, according to what I'm being told here, talking about Epstein, have you seen the allegations that Charlie Kirk's wife's being involved in people smuggling to private islands? No, I haven't seen it about Stevie. So I
No,
can't pass a comment on it.
not really important.
Once again, David goes against the normal monetary policy.
Yeah.
And Rachel Reeves is warned by the OBR that it's downgrading UK productivity levels and that the slowdown will be adding 8 billion to that black hole she says doesn't exist. Which is interesting because Rachel Reeves is about to blame the Tories for the black hole that she said doesn't exist.
Oh dear. And the saying is that everybody in Scotland should be saying now is time for independence, 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 as they say in Scotland.
I was wondering when you're going to get that in. Now, of course, when they're talking about Rachel Reeves is going to blame the Tories, it'll not be until November when the budget is, you know. But that will be that will be the excuse for more austerity coming down the line. Blame the Tories, implement Tory policy. You couldn't fucking make it up.
You couldn't make it up. That's right.
So last week she was telling us there's no black hole, and this week she's telling us there is, and it's the Tories' fault. And the OBR are telling her it's no 50 billion anymore, it's 58, because UK productivity has slowed because basically Brexit. No markets to sell to.
And then if you take a separate snapshot of Scotland, it's like all of that is the opposite way around.
Yes.
And yet they're saying the UK figure is XYZ, but then minus XYZ, but then you look at Scotland, it's plus plus plus.
Stephen, you're on the ball today. The black hole seems to behave like North Sea oil and gas. 1 minute it's there, and the next it's not. It's on and it goes. A nice one, Stevie. You're right on the ball there. But as I say, Rachel Reeves last week was telling us, no, there's no black hole, no black hole, no black hole. And remember, folks, when they came into power a year ago, they were telling us there was a £20 billion black hole. 1 year on, they're 38 billion deeper into that black hole. Isn't that interesting? And we know where the money's going, don't we, David?
Well, go on then. Give us that one as well.
Defence spending.
Right.
To placate the big orange man baby. But as we know, the big orange man baby hasn't been placated, and we'll get there in a couple of minutes.
So if we take that apart and we start looking at the amount of money that's been handed over to Ukraine
and
Israel, right? However, the Israeli thing is like you look at that, surely they're getting paid directly for that from the Israelis, or are they not?
Aye.
Right, looking at the right and wrong of it, I'm not. I'm just looking at it from the point of view of being a transaction. Are the UK not getting paid for any arms that are going to Israel, or is it the fact that Israel are going stuff?
Definitely not getting paid at this point in time. No, Israel's economy's on its arse.
Yeah, right.
And with the Arab states about to cut them off and the Mediterranean ports now refusing to ship into Israel, it can only get worse. So actually at this point in time, America and the UK are giving Israel the means to carry out fucking genocide and further.
So the manufacturers of the weapons that we are quite rightly protesting against, we're protesting against them and saying, look, you shall not provide weapons to Israel because of what they're doing, right? Those manufacturers not getting paid unless they're getting paid by the UK government.
Yeah, that's where the 38 billion went.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Start put the whole thing together.
Aye.
Yeah.
Now, as I say, the NATO countries have increased spending to placate Trump. We're about to get to why he hasn't been placated.
Right.
We're going to Ukraine now. And as we know, the Ukraine conflict is still pretty well bogged down in the mud. Russia's making small advances. Ukraine's having to start shift populations and things like that as they're starting to lose more and more of Donbass and the other areas up the Russian front.
Yes.
But it would appear that Putin is also having a go in pushing the boundaries of NATO.
That's right.
Because that's now been an incursion into Poland by its drones and Romania by its drones. So that's two NATO countries that Putin's pushed at the edge of. Is that an insight in what he's intending to do going forward? No, he's not planning. He won't be around much longer.
You look at the situation with NATO right now. NATO's gone. NATO's away. This Article 5 that you're on about all the time, it's like, it's not going to work it whereby you attack one NATO member, it's like attacking all of them.
No, because if Israel attacks Turkey, America will opt out.
That's right.
But so the Ukraine conflict, it's not gone that great. It's bogged down. But there's another interesting thing that's come out of this, and I'm going to put it up, David, because it is interesting. Where are we? Let's put this up. The Trump's moved on for demanding increased spending on defence too. Trump ready to sanction Russia if NATO nations stop buying its oil. So he shifted the fucking goalposts because we know that Trump is a Putin asset.
Yeah.
And what I'd really like to know is when when Trump was in Moscow in 2011 for the Miss Universe pageants, and that includes the children's one, of course, because that's his fucking beef. What is it that Putin got during that visit?
Several things.
What it is. But
Because,
what's interesting?
at that time, he was no better at working it all out, working what was going to happen, than he was with his friendship with Epstein.
No. As I say, what's interesting about what Putin's got on him, I was listening to a report on BBC Radio Scotland today, David, where they had an American ex-attaché, a diplomat on, and we were talking about Trump and Putin. This woman said to the BBC reporter, I wonder what Russia's got on him. Because even the ex-diplomats are looking at the current diplomats and going, what the fuck's going on here? Why is he no using the might and muscle of America against Putin? I've got a funny feeling it goes back to 2013 when he had the Miss Universe pageants in Moscow.
you look at this from that point of view, it's not a case of who you know that's important in this world. It's what you know about who you know.
Aye.
Important, so.
1809-2025. We're on a new iPad, folks.
Right.
So let's set that to one side. And I suppose we better round this one off with talking about a big talking point today here in Scotland, and that is Salvo Liberation Scott in Geneva at the United Nations.
Right.
They're looking for Scotland to be decolonised.
But they've, to my mind, and to your mind, I know for a fact what you've said about it, right, is that they've gone to the wrong place.
Yes.
If you look back at how the Scottish government was formed, the devolved government was formed, they didn't go to the UN.
They did. They initially went to the UN,
but it was the actual power came from
the
the
Council of
Council
Europe.
of Europe,
Yep.
right? And the end of the day, we've got to look at this Council of Europe. It should be the European Court of Human Rights that we're going to
Yes.
in Strasbourg, right?
Yes.
And even though all of this, when we had Sarah on this program, we were saying to her, look, do we not still need to have a vote at the end of
Event at the end of the
it? Said yes, right?
Uh-huh.
So what are we doing? Are we sitting in a situation whereby we're going to win the battle and lose the war? In other words, we win the battle of, yes, we need decolonising. So therefore, somebody comes along and says, you are now decolonised. Have your referendum. And then the Dirty Tricks Brigade from England gets involved. And
the UN runs it won't work, David. The UN runs the referendum on our behalf.
And still in all, the UN are as stupid as anybody when it comes to that.
It wouldn't get that far anyway. Even if they could get the vote in the General Assembly to have the committee on decolonisation classify Scotland as a colony, it would be called into the Security Council and vetoed by America on behalf of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
But they are trying, and I'm no listen. Nobody's saying they shouldn't try, Phil.
I'm waiting to give a round of applause to any of these people. If you win, my goodness me, your best friend will be me and him, right? So at the end of the day, it's like, that's wonderful, right? But just don't see it happen.
No, I don't see it. I can see a repeat of 1975, where they went to the UN said, no, it's a matter of democracy, take it to the Council of Europe. In this case, the UN's going to say to them, hold on a minute, what you're telling us is you're in a voluntary union with a colony. No, what's actually happening here is your right to self-determination is being held hostage by that colony. Go to the International Court, go to the European Court on Human Rights. You're still a member of it, let them resolve it. So they actually took it to the wrong place to start with. But to be fair, if they can pull it off, because you and I agree, as many irons in the fire as possible.
Yeah.
We'll
also, you've got to look at the fact that in the UK, that we're still part of at the moment, we could end up with no European Court of Human Rights.
That's what they're pushing it, David, and that's why they're doing it. If you look at what's going on down that road in the stream to leave the European Court of Human Rights, they know that that's where the UN's telling the Scottish delegation to go to.
It's all about small boats. All about small boats. Let's say.
But they're trying to say it's about small boats. It's about keeping us hostage. Small boats, 37 to 40,000 people coming in a year. When you've got 750,000 coming in legitimately. Fucking nonsense. There's more to this than meets the eye.
Yes, that's right.
And I mean fucking nonsense, people.
Guys, the mainstream media now is, as far as I'm concerned, it's on a sugary peg in terms of fact checking and all the rest of it, right? But the most important thing is they will omit to provide you with the information that really you should have.
Yes, and we will endeavour to try and give you as much as we can.
We will endeavour to give you as much of that as we can.
As we say, there's no coverage at all on what's going on in the Middle East this week.
But here's the important thing. On your screen, you can see him and I arguing the toss over various things, right? We do that all the time. He's my best mate. He's my best mate in the world, right? But still in all, it's like we will argue the toss. There are things that we do we disagree on, and we do argue with all. And you should feel comfortable in that. The fact that you're going to see both sides.
And wake up and smell the rosemaries, you're absolutely correct. The best red herring in history is stop the boats. It's not about stopping the boats. It's about making sure Scotland can't find that fucking exit door.
Right.
Because we hold all the resources and all the wealth on these fucking islands.
Yeah.
And they are totally dependent on it because their governments are fucking clowns and couldn't run a manage. And it's been like that all my life and all David's life.
Yeah.
So the real reason for trying to get out of the European Court on Human Rights and the European Convention on Human Rights is to stop us from going there.
Yeah.
You can see that there's action groups out with the Scottish Government doing things and they need to put a stop to it. But Liberation Scott and Salvo, I think you and I both told them, David, go to the European Court on Human Rights.
I'm not sure. I can't remember that. I need to have a look back at the broadcast. But to be honest with you, it's
I've talked about since then and different issues.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been talking to them, but I've
if you read my blog that's up on the We Sovereign Scot website, it's our unsung heroes, the SUN, our unsung heroes, right?
UN
The Scottish UN delegation, right? And the problem is that it starts off where it's a UN, all the rest of it, and ends up where it's the Council of Europe actually force Blair at the end of it into
devolution.
Now,
but in this particular case, it's no the Council of Europe we need to go to this time because we're not in Europe, and as a subset of the United Kingdom.
We're still part of the Council of Europe.
Yes, but
we're still part of that, right?
But that's not where they'll be referred this time. They'll be referred to the European Court of Human Rights this time. Because basically what's happening is our right to self-determination has been hijacked by another nation.
Yeah.
And that's a breach of our human rights.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to have to go, folks, the courts.
The competence of the Supreme Court is not there in dealing with an international issue like a treaty between two countries such as Scotland and England. It didn't matter, it happened 300 no years ago. Still in all, now the Supreme Court do not have the competence to hear that.
Phil, they could have the best lawyers on the planet. It won't change the fact that what's actually happening here is, as far as the UN's concerned, we are in a voluntary union. Westminster will restate we're in a voluntary union. And we are going to have to go to court for the right to use our own self-determination.
Yeah. Hey, Phil, don't worry. David and I are ready to go. Oh, great. Brilliant guys. But looking at it, we're going to say, well, you're still going to have a vote at the end of it for independence.
As I say, I don't have time to cover it. If I did, I would pop up a James Kelly's video on Scott Goes Pop on the subject, because he basically agrees with you and I.
Yeah,
they're off in the wrong place. They should be in the ECHR.
He pinched it from you and me, I heard. Sorry, James.
But folks, pop over to James Kelly's Scott Goes Pop YouTube channel, and you'll get another voice saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And actually, the international mob down in Oxford said the same thing and all, that basically Westminster has captured our right to self-determination in the 1998 Scotland Act, and that needs to be fought.
In actual fact, they haven't. When you look at this argument from the Salvo point of view, they haven't. In actual fact, that's what they need. That's what needs overturning.
Aye.
But at the moment, we are held in a union treaty, and as far as I'm concerned, I always thought that any treaty, doesn't matter what it was, you can go treaty. Shh.
Hold on, Phil's getting the wrong end of the stick. They're doing something, Davey. The ECHR hasn't opted out. They haven't taken a case to them. We haven't taken a case to them, Phil, so they couldn't have hoped to do it. And David and I have repeatedly said, if these people are successful, all great and well, and we will congratulate them. We've said the mere irons in the fire. We're not against anybody doing what they can to get us over the line, and that includes the Scottish Government. So please don't misunderstand us here. We are happy for any group to have a pop at trying to find a way out. Absolutely happy. We're not having a pop at them. We're just talking about their chances of success. That's all. If we're wrong, we're wrong. Right, folks, we're going to have to wind this one up here. We hope you found it interesting. We hope you found it informative and entertaining.
The first part of our broadcast, where we talked about propaganda via omission, that's important. You guys have got to be aware of that. And when you switch on that big telly, it's in your living room, they're feeding you everything apart from the important news.
Nathan, that's an interesting one, because I've seen Starmer on the BBC being asked this question. Is the UK a voluntary union? And he said, of course it is. So the BBC presenter here in Scotland said, so what's the route out? And at that point, he clamped up.
That's right.
And they will tell anybody that's listening to them it's a voluntary union. In fact, they did. They tell the UN when the UN was trying to decide what was a country and what was a state. But we're going to have to leave it there, David. That's just after 5, and as you know, I'm out the door in 29 minutes to go to my work.
I know.
So, folks, I'll see you all in the morning. David will see you on Monday. And I say, we do wish Salvo and Liberation Scott the best of luck. Don't misread us. We are only looking at the chances of success. If we're wrong, we're wrong.
Yeah.
And we'll be happy to be wrong.
Yes, very happy. Delighted, in fact.
Well, Phil, I don't get this idea of no enough togetherness in the indie movement. Plenty of togetherness as far as I can see. It's just that everybody's arguing about how to decorate fucking walls we've no got keys for. Yeah. Everybody's wanting to decorate the house before they get the keys to the door. The political shenanigans that are going on between the different parties are not important. As for the different groups that are trying to find different routes out of this union, Dave and I wish them the best of luck. But it doesn't mean we're not going to analyse what it is they're doing. Because that's what we're doing here. We're analysing the news. And this is in the news. Right. As David says, it's time for independence. Eyes on the prize. Bye for now, David.
Bye, guys. Just be safe out there, as I say.
Look after each other. Bye for now.
Should the Whole Street Blues theme tune.
Just before we go, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr.
Bloody hell.
Very generous.
Thank you, Mr. E. Thank you very much.
And on that note,